Hey, it's the Enhancement Talent back again. Second episode for this week with Eric Cornish from 99.5 WKQ, the Rob, 106.1 KISS FM.
One of us dressed up for the occasion.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't. I am wearing my St. Jude pin in support of St. Jude. So.
Playing the role of heel commentator here.
All right, so here we go into the second half of this week, and you know our first show I guess was talking about Raw and what it was going to be. I got to say I was pretty darn impressed.
Raw this week was great for a lot of reasons. One thing that we were both talking about was how it seemed like a slam dunk that CM Punk was going to be there. And not only was A, he not there, but B, they kind of found a way to make him a character on the show without using him on the show.
Yeah, and they definitely took the air out of the crowd that was ready to hijack. Not a very good job of hijacking Chicago.
Didn't go so well.
No, but I've got to say, if they were gonna just deflate that crowd and take away their hijacking ability, they did a great job.
Well, here's the thing, and I bet you the people in Chicago probably experienced this too. When the show opened with Paul Heyman cutting a promo mostly about CM Punk, I was 100% certain that Punk was going to be on the show at some point. And then you expect it to happen at the end, and then when it doesn't happen, they're like, wait a minute, we didn't hijack the show. We forgot to hijack it.
Yeah, it's what happened?
We just landed at our destination where they wanted us.
That's right. And I think what a perfect way to do it. I mean, there's no guy. I heard rumors that they were thinking about Bad News Barrett being the one to come out at the beginning, which I think would have been great for his character. He needs that. He needs that extra heat. But to have Paul Heyman do it, when everybody knows the real-life connection between CM Punk and Paul Heyman, and somebody who can spin his words just like Paul, and look how smoothly he went from talking about CM Punk to talking about The Undertaker to talking about Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker, and all of a sudden CM Punk was never mentioned again. It was beautiful, and I've got to say, I loved it, and me personally, I now more than ever think Punk is not coming to WrestleMania. That's my opinion.
I am sticking by my guns. We will still see him on or before WrestleMania. We can make it a friendly bet if you want to, but I still think in some ways he's going to be there. I would say that if you consider what a promo is supposed to be and what a promo is supposed to do, that was one of the best promos in a very long time. And I'm not surprised that it came from someone like Paul Heyman. The show top to bottom worked for me. I loved the Shield and the Wyatt family again.
It was
just
great.
like at Elimination Chamber, they stole the show and greatly overexceeded what I was expecting. So kudos to them. And really, just top to bottom, I thought Raw was great.
Yeah, I like they're really going forward with the Cena Wyatts. I think that'll work out great. I'm still not positive on if they're doing Triple H and Daniel Bryan.
I'm not sure they're positive.
I don't know that they know either.
If you want my honest opinion, here's what I think happened. I think that they were going with Bryan and Triple H, and now I think they're going to put Bryan in the main event and make it a three-way with Orton and Batista because it's going to be Punk and Triple H.
It very well could be.
Just my thoughts.
I still don't think it'll be Punk. I think Triple H might not even wrestle. Very possible. If he could put his ego aside. But anyway, that kind of transitions, I guess, into one of our first emails here that we've got. Yes, we're getting emails. Thank you so much.
We actually, like a lot of times in our business, people will say they're getting emails when in fact they're not. They're just like their friends writing in questions. We've actually been getting legitimate email, and thank you so much for them. I'm assuming you want this one first.
Yes.
One. Okay.
Yeah.
Jerry V, luscious Jerry V from State College, Pennsylvania writes, for the Enhancement Talent, if you haven't talked about this already, it seems like Batista was brought in this time around for the big face push, and the fans gave the WWE no choice because it would be too rushed, and they were frustrated. Are there any other high-profile examples of the fans forcing the hands of writers and causing them to alter their plans mid-road to WrestleMania or any other time? I can think of a few examples.
Yeah, I will. I'll let you start this one.
The examples that come to mind first to me are whenever smaller guys get the world title. Modern examples include guys like Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit. I don't believe were brought into the WWE to be world champions. But their work rate and how over they became and how popular they became made them put the belt on someone like Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit, who I think they had no intentions of ever giving that strap to. And then in the early mid-90s, even in his book, Bret Hart writes that it was the amount of fan mail that Bret Hart was getting at Titan Towers back when they legitimately sent fan mail in like 1993. And when they were going through the steroid thing, and they were looking for not a guy who looked like Hulk Hogan or Ultimate Warrior, they went to somebody like Bret Hart, who again I don't think they ever really planned on being a world champion. Bret Hart was a tag team champion, and then a picture perfect Intercontinental champion, and then it was like, well, this is the guy they want to see as champion. And I feel like they may not be the best examples, but they're the first that come to my mind.
Well, I'll throw this one out there. Just a couple years ago, the guy we were just talking about, CM Punk. CM Punk, very close to the end of what could have been his WWE career. I feel like he was just days away from getting out of his contract and leaving and being okay with that. And then they kind of come to him and they're like, air your grievances. And that's where you get the pipe bomb promo, the first one that was so good. And here you go. Here you have a guy that was getting ready to leave the company, and now all of a sudden he has a more than a year run with the world title.
Very true.
I mean, that's a big deal. I think that one, and let's go back to what I consider maybe the most famous, and that's Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin was not designated to be a babyface. He was not supposed to be a good guy, and he said time and time again on his podcast and his book, he was trying as hard as he could to be a heel. He was trying as hard as he could. It didn't matter what he did, as many middle fingers as he used, as many cuss words as he used. The fans just ate it up and they loved it. So I think that's one of those things that's what kind of sparked the Attitude Era. Was all of a sudden realizing it's not going to be say your prayers, take your vitamins that gets people excited anymore. It's going to be flipping off your boss and stunning everybody in sight and drinking beer. So I think the fans had a lot to do with that.
One other thing, I mean, you could also have to look at someone like Mick Foley, and then remember when I would say like the ECW revival happened in WWE, in that like they had this amazing one night stand pay per view, and then the fans were just bonkers about ECW, and they kind of even they brought the company back for like a year or two,
right?
And I don't think that they really planned on doing that. I think that was something the fans really wanted to see, so they made it happen. So thank you for that, Jerry.
Appreciate that.
And then we have
Jerry in State College, Pennsylvania. I always worry when I hear that name.
Well, you know, that was a big wrestling city because Altoona, Pennsylvania. Maybe you've heard of that. It's WWE's hit. Altoona and their neighbors. I went to college in both those cities. About maybe an hour and a half apart from each other. Either way, we have one more from Steve in Evansville. Which deceased wrestler would you like to see wrestle today as if they hadn't died and their character progressed to this point?
Wow.
I can tell you this. The wrestling death that had the biggest impact on my life was Owen Hart. And I was in high school when that happened, and that was like the most high profile at the time. And everything, the spotlight was on that. That was like the biggest thing that had actually really happened in wrestling at the time, I think. If I had to pick an answer as far as like in-ring ability goes, while I thought Owen was great, I guess one of the two I mentioned earlier, Guerrero and Benoit, I would love. They were guys that no matter who they were with, I always wanted to see them wrestle.
Right. I feel like both of those guys were probably toward the end of their career. I feel like at this point they'd probably be putting guys over more than they would be wrestling on a regular basis.
Probably,
but they had both accomplished their goals. They had been champion. I think they were close to the end. Owen Hart, I'll agree with. I think Owen Hart still had a lot. I think he would have been world champion. I think he was on par. He was kind of in a lull, I think, in his career when he passed away. But I think he was ready to be that top guy.
Owen, I actually think, would have had the shortest career of the three of them. Everything I've heard about him from wrestlers saying is that he was kind of ready to be done. He had built this mansion that he had with his wife and his family, who he seemed to be very close with, and just was saving up because he wanted to retire. So I bet you he would have had the least time left wrestling. But I guess to answer Steve's question specifically, I'd love to see a triple threat match. Owen Hart, Eddie Guerrero, and Chris Benoit going at it.
That'd be amazing.
So
some of the other ones, to me, I think, and I think if you take away some of the demons that some of these people that died early had, I think you could have seen more out of them. I still think Kurt Hennig had a lot more to offer and could still be around. Just think about it today. Like, he could still go today if he was there, and he's got his son who's, Curtis Axel, who's, I mean, and he could give so much more of a rub to Curtis Axel than, taking nothing away from Larry the Axe Hennig. I mean, just one of the best of all time, but just more people know Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. I think he had a lot to take away the demons from a guy like Kerry Von Erich. I mean, he could have been the biggest star in this business, but he just, his mind was never there.
With Perfect, he was so good when he was doing it. I don't feel like he had a whole bunch of time left. I think his contributions would have been more like in a booth, like commentary,
Definitely.
or like a road agent or something like that. And the last one you mentioned was
Kerry Von Erich.
Yeah, he was never one of my favorites. I was never like a Von Erich guy. I felt like it was always easy for them to get over where they were over because of their name. But like my favorite Texas Tornado match,
Yeah. Well, I mean, he came in pretty quick. They gave him the rub over Mr. Perfect, and gave him the Intercontinental title. It didn't last long, but again, I think that's because, from everybody you talk to, I mean, you listen to Jerry Lawler talk about Kerry Von Erich, and talks about how wonderful a worker he was, but his mind was just never there. Ric Flair's the same way. He'll say the same thing. But anyway, great questions. Thank you so much, Steve, for that. And
are our email addresses on the screen?
Yeah, we'll put them all down here. Email, Twitter. Hit us up. Let us know what you want to know about, and we'll just keep bringing the wrestling to you. Looking forward to the house show, by the way.
April 27th.
April 27th at the Ford Center. And lots of great local action, too. That's another thing I think we need to,
local stuff?
Let's reach out to the local guys. I mean, I know there's lots of different local organizations out there. If you wanna promote your shows here with us, we'd love to talk about them.
Absolutely,
Come out to your show and give our reviews. So let us know.
Sure. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.